All right, Wolf. I got to bring up one more name that was kind of a surprise in the first round. Tyler Booker going 12th to Dallas.
What do you mean that was a surprise?
Well, maybe surprise is too strong of a word, but we were talking surprises last segment. This is where he was originally projected to go, right in that range. In fact, you and I even talked about this yesterday. I remember saying, "Are you worried about Dallas at 12?" But his projections had been so all over the place, more than anybody else in this draft, except maybe Shedeur Sanders, as it turns out. Where just a week ago you were hearing, okay, well, the Cardinals might be able to get him. They don't need to take him at 16. They'll just wait and get him at 47. He went 12th. That was obviously a mix of probably some smoke screens being tossed out there, some draft subterfuge, but also I don't think as many teams are just blindly buying into the combine now as they used to.
Boy, you know what? Honestly, I think you're right on that. I really am. I said it at the time. Tyler Booker, and the fact that Tyler Booker was ranked as high as he was. Tyler Booker, there were a lot of people that believed he was going to be a top 10 guy, and then the combine happened, and we all know what happened. It was a complete disaster for Tyler Booker. This was going to be a case study, Basin. I mean, this is why this is fascinating to me. This was going to be a case study on what tape really truly meant to general managers and what the combine means to general managers in the year 2025 of our Lord.
Yeah.
Okay, so to me, it was going to be a case study because what you see on tape with this guy is him just mauling people. And then what you saw at the combine is, oh, this guy can't run, he can't move. Are you kidding me? This guy's horrible. So it was going to be, okay, well, how badly is this going to hurt Tyler? It didn't hurt him. It did not hurt him. In the end, the game won out. Not the combine. In the end, the game, the blood sport won.
I just don't feel like we're going to watch a lot of Cowboys games next year and be like, they would have won if Tyler Booker ran a 40 3/10 of a second faster. It's one of those things. And again, if you're telling me, if you're saying, okay, well, do you care how much a receiver, how quickly they run a 40? Yeah, I do. Within reason. It's a tool. It's not everything. I still care about what they're doing in games more, but I don't care about an offensive lineman's speed. It's so far down the list. And apparently it was so far down the list for a lot of teams too, including Dallas, who decided to forego the splashy pick and decided to take maybe a more football-savvy pick. And as it turns out, that costs Wolf Tyler Booker, who he wanted for a long time. And then if you heard the draft show last night, Wolf, I give you all the credit. You tried to pivot to, okay, well, maybe they can get Donovan Jackson in the second round. And the next pick off the board was Donovan Jackson to Minnesota.
Yes, I know. Oh, my goodness, that crushed me.
There's a lot of good players still out there, though, as we head into day 2 of this draft.
Yeah. When you look at the Arizona Cardinals picking at number 47, or do you just want to look at the names that are still out there generally? Who is the kid? How do you pronounce the kid's name from Arizona? It's Savilanea, I believe. Savilanea?
I don't have an answer for you.
Okay, you know what? That kid, I like him.
I have an answer.
Okay.
I need to see it.
Hold on. Sorry.
Jonah Savanaya, offensive tackle, Arizona.
Jonas Savaiinaea, the offensive tackle from the University of Arizona, will have to be a guard in the NFL, but his size and stature will translate exceptionally well to the league. Savaiinaea's ability to keep defenses out of the backfield is his greatest strength. He'll need to spend some extensive time in the film room and work on his recognition, but he will be an impactful lineman for whoever gets this Wildcat. NFL comp, Bengals guard, Cordell Volson.
You were talking about Jonah from Arizona. I thought if you had just said Jonah from Arizona, I would have known.
Right. Yeah. All right. Jonah from Arizona. This is the kid I really like that's still out there. Mm-hmm. A kid that I think could fit in to the right guard position. What's interesting, when you listen to Jonah say it, it's not Savaiinaea. It is not. He's not saying that. He pronounces it completely
Well, it's his name. He pronounces it
to a point where I can't even repeat it when he says it. That's how tough it is. Jonah from Arizona.
Jonah from if you had just said Jonah, I would have been like, oh, yeah.
There's a guy that I think is interesting and could be available at 47.
Yeah, I was writing down a list as we were going last night, and we got down to like the final 5 picks of the first round. I was just kind of scribbling down some names, and a lot of them went in the final couple picks. I mean, 2 of them were Josh Simmons and Jahad Campbell, and those were the last 2 picks of the first round. The rich getting richer potentially, right? The Eagles get Jahad Campbell, just who needs him, and the Chiefs get Josh Simmons as if they really desperately need any more help either. But there are, like, Will Johnson is still out there. Now he's, there's injury questions, but he's still out there. Wolf, a name you brought up yesterday that I talked about a lot on the draft show last night that I like, Luther Burden III. I mean, that's a guy that, depending who you talk to, there are people that think he could be the best or second best receiver in this draft. I like him because of what you said. He specifically would fit for the Cardinals because he is a speed guy who can catch. So he doesn't have to be this complete receiver. You're probably not getting that in the second round. But you can go out there and get a guy that can impact the games right away in the second round. And also Mike Green, I'm surprised, is still out there.
Mike Green, I was just going to say that right now. First of all, Will Johnson, there has to be something medically involved with Will Johnson, right? This is a guy that, oh my goodness, to see him fall, that was a shock. I think it was the biggest shock, even more so than Shedeur Sanders. The biggest shock to me. Shedeur Sanders, there were some people saying he belongs in the second round. Will Johnson, nobody's said that.
No.
Nobody I've heard has said that about Will Johnson.
Looks like he was a potential top 10 pick. And the thing with Shedeur is, there's a lot of teams that are desperate for quarterbacks, but when you get to a certain point in the draft, those teams don't need quarterbacks, right? Like we got to 21 when the Steelers didn't take him last night, and it was kind of like, all right, he's not getting drafted then in the first round. Because look, if the Steelers, if they don't like you, if that team doesn't like you as their quarterback, they don't want to commit to you being their quarterback for the next 3, 4, 5 years, whatever. Then you're going to drop. And once you get into the 20s, I mean, he just dropped. I know the Giants traded up to get Jackson Dart, but they were kind of clear they liked Dart more than Sanders anyway. So I agree with you. Will Johnson dropping is the biggest shock, although it did seem like there was health, not concerns, but just, something that would lower your draft stock. So I doubt he would be there at 47. If he would be, that would be amazing.
Yeah, no, it would be very, very cool. And Luther Burden is a 4-4, a legit 4-4 guy. And it was interesting because I've heard Dave Pasch, my good buddy, he actually did a game, a Luther Burden the third game, and said, man, he loved this guy, loved watching him play in the burst that he had. So, once again, who knows what might happen, but I know this. It's going to be really, really cool to see this. Where is Monty going to go? Monty loves the second and third round. This is where he's lived a little bit. I wonder if they're going to move at all. If we'll see Monty move and maybe collect another third round pick. You don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Just to circle back to Burden for a second, 25 touchdowns over the last 3 years. 2 years ago, he put up over 1,200 receiving yards and 9 scores. And that's why in a lot of people's minds coming into last season, and I mean nationally, I don't mean locally. I know people were talking about Teteroa McMillan obviously going into last season. He proved to be a great receiver. But nationally, there were quite a few people that had Burden as maybe the top receiver in college football going into last season. There was 4 or 5 guys there, but he was certainly one of them. And there's still, depending where you look, there's still draft experts out there that have his grade up there at 1 or 2 among receivers. So he might actually be there at 47. And again, the fact that he can run that way, like you're saying, that's a guy who could maybe just step right in and help them as a number 2 or number 3 receiver.
Thanks for watching Wolf and Luke. Tap to see more and click the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.